Good morning or afternoon to all of you, depending on where you're tuning in from. Exciting webinar this afternoon. It is going to be a little bit of a shorter one with we're going to wrap up here in about half of an hour. So we've got about 30 minutes together, and I am really excited because we have something really cool that we're bringing to all of you. This is something that I know I've been looking forward to for quite a long time, and I think something that will really provide a lot of value for a lot of us out there in the field as we go about doing our jobs as plant healthcare applicators or arborists. So, very briefly, I'd like to introduce myself here. My name is Mark Ware. I am an arborologist with Rainbow Ecoscience. I work in the Northeast primarily, reside here just outside of Philadelphia. And basically, what my role is making sure that our clients are as supported as they possibly can be, that they're using our products and our equipment and having success with them. They're getting predictable results. And so everything I do is in service to that. I also get to do a little bit of research and development, as well as really just getting out there and doing just plant healthcare education. That's what I do. It's awesome. That right there is also my contact information. If there are any questions, because today is kind of a shorter day, so if there's any questions that I do not get to, there is a very good chance that I don't get to a bunch of questions during this session. Please feel free to reach out anytime, whether it be via email or shoot me a text, give me a call, whatever works best. I'm happy to help out however possible, as well as reaching out to our I always say 24/7, but our 5 days a week, we have our fully staffed support center as well that's available to you. So please keep that in mind. A little bit about Rainbow and what we do is we sell plant healthcare products, equipment, and solutions. And we do that by doing quite a bit of our research and development trials. We do this. Some of them are just in-house. A lot of them we're partnering with folks in the industry or universities and things of that nature. And so we do an awful lot of research. We have a fantastic research team. And really, it's because of that research team that we get to talk about what we're going to be talking about today, which is a new product for us and one that comes with a whole lot of really cool advantages. As I also kind of already alluded to, we answer a ton of technical support calls annually. And 1,200, those are just the ones that are documented. But believe me, we probably answer twice that. And I say that on purpose because you're never going to bother us reaching out. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you need advice or whatever on something related to plant healthcare, please reach out to us. We are very happy to take your calls, and we really want to do that. That's important to us. So what if the AI in Acelepryn was more affordable to use? Would that excite you? And I know for me that's really exciting because historically Acelepryn has been a very expensive, cost prohibitive product for some of us to use. But the good news is that as of today, we have a product that is the same active ingredient. However, it is a post-patent alternative to Acelepryn. And the big benefit with that is quite simple. It's more cost effective. It's not as cost prohibitive. It's not as expensive. And so now we have the ability to leverage this very effective and bee-friendly technology at a reasonable price. Now, for those of you who are wondering, maybe you've never used Acelepryn before, or maybe it's not something that you're super familiar with. Acelepryn is using the active ingredient chlorantraniliprole. And chlorantraniliprole is a fantastic active ingredient, and we'll talk about why that is in just a minute. But the key thing here is for those of you who have used Acelepryn in the past, Diamid T&O, which is what our product is, that's our alternative product, it does have an active ingredient percentage of just over 34%. That's important because Acelepryn has an active ingredient percentage of just 18.4%. So we have not quite, but just about double the amount of active ingredient in our product versus in Acelepryn. And that's important because this is not going to be, that's going to impact which rates we use. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. With Diamid, it comes in 1 quart units, and we can apply this a number of different ways. We can do this as a foliar spray, we can use it as a bark spray, and in some limited cases, we can use it as a soil application. We'll talk a little bit more about all 3 of these use cases as we go throughout the rest of this today. It does have a caution signal word, and it is a fantastic product to use, not just with our ornamental trees and shrubs, but also in turf. For those of you who've used it in the past, I'd be willing to bet there's a significant handful of us that have used it for turf specifically. It has proven to be just a fantastic product for controlling things like white grubs, as well as a lot of the other big issues we've seen popping up, such as armyworms. So it's a fantastic product for turf as well. As for our ornamentals, it is labeled for both foliar and systemic control of many, many insects, as well as lawns, landscape areas, and other residential, commercial, and institutional properties, even interior plantscapes, if that's something we find ourselves doing. But what are the benefits of chlorantraniliprole? And this is the take-home. This is the exciting part. Diamid being a much more cost-effective product is really exciting. But the reason it's exciting is because of what Diamid contains, and that's chlorantraniliprole. Chlorantraniliprole is the first anthranylic diamide registered for use on turf grass and landscape ornamentals. It's a group 28, so it's a new mode of action as well compared to a lot of the other products we're using as insecticides currently. The other thing that's really exciting about this is that it has been designated as a reduced risk pesticide by the United States EPA. The reason for this is because of the way chlorantraniliprole works, that mode of action. It is essentially non-toxic to mammals, birds, and fish because the receptors that are being targeted in our target pests, which we're going to talk about, mostly our chewing and caterpillar species, are 400 to 300 times more sensitive to it than the receptors of mammals, birds, and fish. So these ryanodine receptors, which is what are being targeted as a result of application, our off-target impact is significantly reduced because of the different receptors and the different sensitivity to the receptors that mammals, birds, fish have to this product. And basically the way it's working is we are paralyzing the pests. The primary mode of entry is via ingestion, and so we have our beetles or our grubs or our caterpillar species that are ingesting this product, and that's really when it goes to work. So I have on here that it is selective, but really it is still sort of a broad spectrum. But because of those things we just kind of talked about, it can also be potentially considered a little bit of a selective product as well. Now, there are still some restrictions. We do still want to be making sure we're wearing our personal protective equipment and all of that stuff, applying this stuff properly and responsibly. And really, the restrictions are nothing super new. However, I did want to just quickly highlight that this is not for use in California at this time, as well as a few counties in New York State. Otherwise, those restrictions are nothing new. We do have acreage limits. We do have, application interval limits, but nothing new, nothing different than all the other products we're using. But for those of us who do have this available to us as a tool, which is the vast majority of us, there are a lot of use cases for this. As I mentioned, with turf, we have quite a lot of pests that are listed on the label. Same thing for our tree and shrub foliar uses. And there also are, once again, systemic uses that we could potentially be using this stuff for as well. Those pests in bold are what are specifically on the Diamid label, and are not found on other labels, other formulations of this product. So things like Eastern tent caterpillar, Zimmerman pine moth, Japanese beetle, etc. Very, very effective against these as well. And then as far as our application, so we talked about the 3 types of application methods or delivery methods we could use for this. The first one we're going to talk about is bark application. And I want to be very intentional in how I'm doing this, because as a bark application, this is not a systemic bark application. So this is not a systemic way to deliver this product. If we're using it as a bark application, we're using it the same way we would use maybe a bifenthrin or a permethrin product, where we are creating a barrier. So this is, we're spraying the bark in order to prevent things like borers, primarily, from gaining entry and starting to bore into the tree. For that reason, we do have recommendations for a slightly higher rate per 100 gallons. And basically, the reason for that large rate is really how much of a residual you're looking for. If we use the higher end of that rate, so as we get closer to 8 to 16 ounces, we can expect a longer residual control from that one application. And this is a great bark spray application for a lot of our boring pests, especially things like peach tree borer on our cherries, dogwood borer, lilac borer, banded ash borer. There are plenty of others as well where this could be potentially a great alternative to use as opposed to what we're currently using. So something to think about there. And once again, something kind of exciting there as well. Now, foliar sprays are what we're going to use this product as primarily. And we have quite a few pests that are going to be controlled quite effectively as a result of a foliar spray application. It's a great alternative to a lot of our other products we're currently using, especially bifenthrins, permethrins, those kind of broad spectrum, non-selective, I suppose you could say, products. And that is really because of its honeybee friendly nature, right? It's not going to be as impactful to our off-target organisms as maybe some of our other products would be. And so due to its lower risk and toxicity to our pollinators, specifically our honeybees or bees, Diamid, I would recommend highly that it becomes sort of the preferred product for some of these pests that we talk about next. Now, the first one that I want to talk about and highlight is Japanese beetle. Once again, I would highly recommend that this be positioned as the preferred product to control Japanese beetles, especially on hosts like linden and roses, because they're blooming either in the middle of summer or they're blooming all summer. These are pests that are highly attractive to pollinators. And so when we can use a product that's going to have less of a risk, less of an impact on them, why wouldn't we, right? And so once again, we could use this. We're going to use this at the 2-ounce rate, and we could be doing this in about 2-week intervals. We will see somewhere between 14, maybe up to 30 days of residual activity. So depending on pest pressure would dictate what your reapplication interval would be. We want to begin doing these treatments when beetles are present or right after petal fall in the case of lindens. Some research to back this up, and once again, chloramphenicol, you can see here, has pretty much fantastic residual, so much less leaf tissue eaten, and you can see on that bottom chart, much less leaf tissue eaten than the alternative products that were used there, bifenthrin and carbaryl, especially after 21 days. So pretty cool results there, and that really goes to show the effectiveness and the residual activity that we should expect as a result of these applications. So really exciting, really cool there. The next one I want to talk about is bagworms. And so bagworms, fall webworms, and tent caterpillars. I'm going to kind of group all of these together because they're all rather similar. Of course, different timings, but For these pests specifically, we want to use either a 1 to 2 ounce rate, so very low use rate. And I think that's one of the big advantages of this as well is you know, 1 unit of Diamid can actually take you very, very far. It goes very far. So that's also pretty exciting as well. Is it's not only more cost effective than its predecessors to the market, but it's also going to take you very far. You know, you can mix a lot of solution up with just 1 unit. So 1 to 2 ounce use rate. It's a fantastic alternative. I'm going to say this probably a few more times, but it is a fantastic alternative to things like Upstart Gold or Talstar or Baseline or any of the other bifenthrin products. Same thing with our permethrin products like Tengard or other alternatives out there. It could also be a really great tool to replace soil-injected Lepitect to an extent. Now, not saying that there's anything wrong with these products. These are all products that are highly effective. However, when you look at the benefits of Diamid versus some of these others, it might make it more appealing. Especially, we see our bagworms on a lot of our border plantings, right? So it's arborvitaes and evergreens and things of that nature that are planted along borders of properties historically. So while Lepitect as a soil injection is a fantastic option for that, sometimes soil injection on arborvitaes isn't a lot of fun, right? Trying to get in there and get our application done where we need to. And so now we have a product that, because of its very low risk, is it makes it better, even if the neighbor, if there's concerns with maybe dogs or pets or playgrounds or whatever. This could be something that puts those concerns at ease a bit, if you will. So being that it's a lower risk product, it might mean that that's being a foliar spray is generally one of the easier things to do for these pests. Might be worth thinking about, right? That's the thing, is just thinking about this stuff. Excellent. So that's where we are right now. Once again, some data here looking at a bagworm trial. This is out of Indiana, done by Dr. Sadoff, and you can see here this was the Acelepryn formulation that was used, but they compared it here to Talstar or Upstart Gold, which is, once again, you can kind of same active ingredient, same percentage and all that, but you can see just how effective Acelepryn was versus sort of one of the industry standards as it is right now. So excellent control compared to what we may be already using. And then the same thing here. This is looking at chlorantranoloprol versus BT formulations, which is just another option we have for controlling bagworms. And you can see, once again, great results and pretty comparable to what we're already using, if not better. The next one I want to talk about is spongy moth. And spongy moth is another one that this is highly effective on, and kind of in the same thinking with our tent caterpillars and fall webworms, right? These are pests that are feeding generally on more mature deciduous trees, oaks, walnuts, things of that nature, right? And so when a foliar spray is necessary, it takes a lot of product. It takes a lot of pressure to get good coverage of a lot of these trees when we're targeting things like spongy moth or tent caterpillars. So once again, that benefit that I'm going to keep coming back to, of being that lower risk and having lower risk to our off-target organisms, is huge in this case. And so that's just one more big reason as to why this would be one of the preferred tools in our toolbox, if you will, when it comes to things like spongy moth or fall webworm, tent caterpillars, things of that nature. And so what this trial is looking at too, because sometimes these are hard to just look at and figure out. But basically what we did here was we looked at 2 different formulations of chlorantranoloprol, our current one, Diamid, and then we looked at the current industry standard. And basically we were comparing the difference between different formulations of chlorantranoloprol. And in a nutshell, they both worked great. They both controlled the larvae very well. and they both resulted in much less leaf tissue being eaten than the untreated trees. So spongy moth is a fantastic option if you're looking to fit Diamid into your protocols. Along those same routes, sawfly is another big one. Now, there are many different kinds of sawflies out there, of course. However, this is really the reason I wanted to highlight this is because currently with sawflies, probably most of us are using either Zytec, Transtec, or a similar product, these neonicotinoid products, in order to control them currently. And unfortunately, in some areas, in some states, these products are either highly restricted or unavailable to us for use. And so currently, there's not a lot of great alternatives to this, but I would consider this one of the great alternatives, one of the better alternatives that we have available to us for this, once again, because of that lower risk that's associated with it. This is still going to be a foliar spray, so although Transtec and Zytec are both systemic products, we are going, if we're going to use Diamid in lieu of them, it will be a foliar spray as opposed to a bark spray or otherwise. And once again, highly effective on our sawfly species, especially when compared to, once again, carbaryl, which is one of the more popular products being used on these pests when foliar sprays are being used. And then, like I said, turf uses are another one. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this at the end here, but I do want to, we're kind of burning through this stuff a little bit quickly here, and so I'm going to very quickly promote. In June, we have our very own Corey McCurry, who's going to talk a whole lot more about our chewing pest protocols and also how we could fit Diamid into them. But he's going to go into a lot more depth on many of the things that I've talked about. I'm just kind of hitting the wave tops, if you will, going very high level. So if you're interested in learning more about how to control some of those pests we just talked about, please make sure you're signing up and tuning into that. And that will be later in June. And I'll show you a slide at the end on where you can go to sign up and when that will be. But turf uses are another big one. Now, admittedly, turf is not something that has been, that's not really my focus, but it's a huge opportunity here when it comes to Diamid. As I mentioned earlier, chlorantraniliprole is a fantastic active ingredient, and that's really where it's found a home, if you will, is in that turf use because of how effective it is against a lot of our really bad issues, especially white grubs and things of that nature when it comes to turf. It has a very broad label as well when it comes to turf uses. And you can see here some of the examples: white grubs, armyworms, cutworms, sod webworms, billbugs, so on and so forth. So fantastic option to use as a foliar spray or a soil application in turf as well. And this is a really cool chart of your timing and what you can expect when you should be applying this for certain pests. With grubs, we're going to get pretty much season-long control with one application. Once again, your rate's going to determine that. But also, we're going to get great control of a lot of our turf caterpillars and things of that nature as well as a result of this. So that's pretty cool. And then when it comes to our tree pests, once again, we talked about most of these already, but these are kind of the windows, if you will, of when you would be applying Diamid in order to get good, predictable control of a lot of these different pests. If you're interested in these charts, once again, send me an email. It's just mware@rainbowecoscience.com. I'd be happy to pass them along should they be something you wanted to, print out and reference in the future. And with that, like I said, I'm hitting the wave tops here today. My main goal is just to get you aware of maybe what Diamid is. If you've never heard about it, now you have, and why it's valuable, what the benefits of it are, and why it's something that I would highly encourage you to consider adding into some of these protocols. But what's really cool is that not only are you going to get all those benefits we just talked about? But we also have a really cool promotion going on right now, where not only are we going to benefit the environment by using this product, but we're also going to benefit you by giving you a $100 gift card to pretty much wherever the heck you want it to be. And so in order to qualify for this, all you have to do is simply buy a case of Diamid, and we will send you a gift card to wherever you. I don't think it might not be wherever you want, but we have a huge variety of different options you can choose from. So if this is something that's interesting to you, it does end at the end of June, so we still have a few months. Well, 2 months to be exact. And like I said, all you have to do is order, and we'll reach out to get you your gift cards. So you can either call your territory manager. If you're not sure who your territory manager is, you can call into our solution center at 877-272-6747. Additionally, if you have questions about Diamid that we're not, that don't get addressed or haven't been addressed, you can also call into that 877 number to ask questions. We have our tree experts ready, standing by. They're there 5 days a week from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central, and they're ready to answer any questions you may have. So that's pretty exciting. That's pretty cool. And then last but not least, as we wrap up, like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a quick one today compared to our normal webinars. But on June 5th at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have our very own Corey McCurry, who's also an arborologist in the Midwest, who is going to go into a lot more detail with our chewing pests and how to manage them, and also how to build in Diamid to these protocols in an effective way. So that one is going to be an hour. So there will be plenty more time for questions at that one, as well as Corey will have the opportunity to get into the weeds a little bit more with a lot of these protocols. So if that's something you're interested in, go to rainbowecoscience.com. Same page where you signed up for this one. You can find this webinar in that list as well. So I'd encourage you to sign up for that. And with that, I think I will. Let's see if there's any questions that came in that I can address. I can just give you a couple questions real quick. So one question is, how does the adult Japanese beetle rate of Diamid compare to Acelepryn? Are we using half the mix rate essentially? Yes. Yeah, actually, that's exactly it. Because once again, our active ingredient percentage it's not quite double, but it's pretty close to double that of Acelepryn. So if you're using the 2 to 4 ounce mix rate with the Acelepryn currently, you can jump that down to a 1 to 2 ounce mix rate with Diamid. So it makes your mix rates really easy. You are basically just cutting them in half. Great question there. And then some other questions come in, and I'm going to just generally, like I said, we will address these questions in the next webinar, but there's a lot of questions on other pests that it could be used for. In a very general statement, if it's a chewing pest, more likely than not, Diamid is going to be highly effective. This is not for use on fruit trees. So if you're eating the fruit, we're not going to use it for that. Even though it is a lower risk, we do still have those label restrictions on what we can and can't use it for. So, like I said, unfortunately, I do have to. We're gonna stick to our half hour. Normally, we do hang around for some extra questions, but don't despair. You can always reach out to me later on, or tune into our next webinar to find out more information. So with that, thank you for joining. I appreciate you jumping on in the middle of the day here. For a lot of us, it's probably our lunch break. So I appreciate you jumping on, spending some time with us. And hopefully you are as excited as I am about this, because I think this is an awesome opportunity for us. So enjoy the rest of your day. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everybody.